Welcome back to Financial Independence 101. This is Mike, and today I want to talk to you about this government shutdown. And, well, technically, a government shutdown is a good thing for a couple of reasons. And I know people are hurting. There are people that are really going to be inconvenienced, possibly long-term damage from this. But the reality of it is that you need to know who is causing this, who's trying to reopen the government, but why it's actually good. Anytime there is hardship, there's some sort of good on the other end. We become stronger. Evidently, you can see who's voting yay and nay. We'll talk a little bit about that in this video. But what are the requirements to reopen? We're going to look at what the Democrats are demanding to reopen our government. And it's easy for someone like myself who doesn't depend on the government for really anything. But for other people, they depend on government for every aspect of their life. And I have to admit that we'll talk about that too. You're going to have to get away from that, because the future of you living off the government, or anybody really living off the government, is not very viable going forward. But there's the number of government shutdowns. Only expect to see more and more and more going forward as time goes by. But November 1st, if this is not resolved by November 1st, there's going to be some serious issues in this country when it comes to SNAP benefits, and I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about all of this and more coming up. So I want to start with this list of all government shutdowns and their duration, and this was December of 2018 was the last one under Donald Trump, then Barack Obama, and then Bill Clinton, and then George Bush. I do believe George W. Bush caved. Him and everybody at the time caved for that to avoid a shutdown. It was a bigger deal to avoid a shutdown back then. But what I want to say is that one of the good things about a shutdown is that we start to see how wasteful spending in the government is hurting our country, destroying our country in a way. Here's a small clip of the U.S. debt clock. $38 trillion. We've spent $7 trillion this year, and it's October 22nd when this was clipped. And then we've brought in $5 trillion. So we got a 5.2. So we got a $1.8 trillion deficit already, with another 2.25 months to go to get through all this. That's not good. Stuff needs to change. Stuff has to change. The government is full of absolute wasteful spending. If I were to look at every single dollar they spend, I would only probably agree with about a quarter of the spending. I do believe the government is 4 times too large. Now, that's my belief. But in around 3 million people employed, I wouldn't mind seeing about 2 million getting laid off. Now, that also is a discussion. I don't want to lose any soldiers, military. But when it comes to just all these mundane, unnecessary jobs that were put into place just so we can have job increases during certain presidencies, those got to go. So we're going to see some job losses because, well, let's just show you. Because good old Donald Trump is laying off thousands of people. 4,000 here, 4,000 there. Thousands isn't enough. Hundreds of thousands is more like it, where it needs to be. But we need to shrink the government by at least half, if not 2/3. That'd be great. You saw the overspending, the $2 trillion overspending. You saw that. We cannot afford the wasteful spending going forward. This is the first time I've ever seen positive movement during a shutdown in my lifetime. I'll just say that again. I've never seen anybody anywhere in the U.S., either side of the aisle, do something positive, fiscally responsible during the shutdown. You do not need to adjust your television set. This is what's called a clean CR. These are the requests from the speaker, Mike Johnson. This is the request for a continuing resolution. It's called a clean CR. There's not one request. Not one additional change to anything. It is just to keep the bare minimum spending going. So let's just facts. These are the facts. Lay the facts out there. This is exactly what the Republicans are asking for. And what are the Democrats saying? No, we're not going to vote to open the government unless you spend $1.5 trillion on unnecessary spending. Now, I will say this. Some of those things, getting healthcare costs down, we got to fix Obamacare. We all understand that. We all know Obamacare is costing us $1 to $1.5 trillion a year. We've got to fix that. But that's not all that's in here. They're wanting money for LGBTQ stuff in other countries. And I don't really, like I just say, I don't think it's worth spending a penny on that because it's other countries. And here, I think everybody in the U.S. should be treated equally and fairly. That's all I got to say about that. But not only are Democrats wanting to keep the government shut down as long as possible, and I don't know, would they be happy with it being shut down for 6 months? I'm curious about that. I mean, it won't affect me at all. Personally, it won't affect me. But it will inadvertently, and I will show you that. I will be affected, not directly, it's an indirect effect. And I will show that. That's in this video. So if you're not dependent on the government, if you don't need the government to, if you're like me and the only thing when you look at the government is just a place you have to write another check to, then you're probably not going to be directly hurt, but you will be indirectly hurt like I am. So can Trump pay troops without Congress? Democrats are saying it's unconstitutional for him to reallocate already approved spending for something else to pay the troops. I think that is awesome. Now, you saw that list of all the past shutdowns, and in the early days, the early aughts, nobody ever said troops wouldn't get paid. And for all the military bases, nobody that I know ever lost a paycheck during a shutdown. Until we started seeing it during the Obama era. And then definitely through the good old Biden era. And when all those Trump shutdowns. They would just say, troops aren't going to get paid. Troops aren't going to get paid. Troops aren't going to get paid. Well, Trump said, no, they're getting paid. And we'll figure it out. So Democrats are saying it's unconstitutional to pay the troops during a shutdown. That's disgusting. I'm disgusted with the notion of even if it is unconstitutional, the fact that somebody would say that they're going to do something to not pay the troops is absolutely disgusting. I mean, that's how you know the character of the individuals. So if you ever hear anyone saying it's unconstitutional to pay the troops and what was done here, you need to look at that person as having absolutely no character and no humanity. None. Now, what is the problem? Why are we shut down? Well, our debt limit is $36.1 trillion. Now, this is something that we've been dealing with since January 2nd, but they keep passing some resolutions to keep it open. But at a certain point, they have to raise this debt ceiling. And that's pretty much what's going to happen in all this. One of the problems, and I showed it with the debt clock, but the U.S. topped $38 trillion for the first time, and it's worsened by the government shutdown. Now, this is another thing that it baffles a reasonable, logical person's mind, but when you look at government spending, you got to throw any and all logic out the window. So they're going to allow people to sit at home and basically take a vacation without pay, and then get back paid in the future. The way I viewed this, and I'm talking early aughts, this isn't just yesterday. If you don't show up to work during the shutdown, you don't deserve back pay. But see, all these government workers know they're going to get back pay by sitting at home, and they're just going to go, woe is me, till it opens back up and they get this 2 paychecks at once or something like that. That's what they're expecting. They weren't expecting to do the right thing. Government does the right thing and actually eliminates unnecessary workers. You might be wanting to ask what's in this $1.5 trillion that the Democrats want. And there's a whole lot. I really have to break down a lot of bullet points, but what is, I would say, the hot button topic that's really upsetting people, and it's literally bothering people on both sides, is $200 billion of the $1.5 trillion that's going for insurance, healthcare for illegal immigrants. Now, as my grandmother being a legal immigrant that went through all of the processes, jumped through all of the hoops, and was rolling over in her grave 80 times because people just walk across for 4 years, walked across the border, and now are getting all these benefits up to $20,000 a month, depending on where you're living in the situation. But some of them in New York were living in $750 $50 a night high-rise hotels, and that was being paid for. So the bill was being footed for that. But with all of this, $200 billion on healthcare right now, and guess what? You're paying for it. The taxpayers are paying for this, not anyone else. Well, you see, you'll inadvertently pay for it because they're going to print money out of thin air. They're going to dilute the dollar. It's going to cause more inflation. And the right thing to do is what the Republicans are doing. Spend less money. That's what Republicans want. Democrats want to spend more money. So we're not going to get another vote till Friday, which will probably be what? The 24th? Something like that. If that doesn't pass, we got a week. 1 week. Now, what does this shutdown mean? Well, obviously, we're paying our bills. We're going to be paying interest payments and notes and stuff. That's going to happen. This is all a formality, a technical formality. But one thing that's not going to happen, people aren't going to be getting their food stamps. Now, food stamps in 2025 aren't called food stamps anymore. They call it SNAP benefits, EBT, all that kind of stuff. But Oklahomans on November 1st, if the shutdown continues, will not get their cards reloaded. This is a site that's kind of insane. If you've ever, back when Walmarts were 24 hours, I would be there shopping at like 11:30, and then I would walk over to check out, and it's like 12:02, and I'd be like, why are there so many people? I can't even check out. And why are they buying like $500 worth of food at midnight? That's because their cards got reloaded and they didn't plan on actually eating the food. They wanted to sell it for drug money. That's a crazy sight to see. I've seen it all too many times at the Walmart. But anyways, SNAP benefits going to end, so that means that these people are getting free food, living off government. And let me put this way. I may sound very insensitive because all those years of working 90 hours a week and not enjoying one holiday with my family and missing every single family event and every single event with my kids and every single play and everything, I missed a lot to live the life I live. And then I'd look at other people that got to go to every single holiday and every single thing with their family and everything, and the government paid for their whole lifestyle and their house and everything, and then they would tell me that I worked too hard. And I was like, well, I guess you're right. But see, I have kind of, I'm a bit jaded when it comes to multi-generational handouts, and people just choose not to try to do better. But there are people that are trying to do better. There are people that are working really hard and still need help. Those people are the ones that my heart goes out to. The people that don't try at all, I'm not going to give you an ounce of sympathy. You will never find me giving an ounce of sympathy. You know, there's a saying called a hand up, not a hand out. But see, you've got you got families with multiple generations expecting handouts. And that has got to stop. That has to stop. So yeah, I might sound insensitive. Those 19-hour days, those days that I didn't get to see my family, times that I would work 11 straight days and 12-hour minimums and 17 hours on some days just so that my operation, my restaurant ran well. I mean, I'm sorry, but it's hard to have sympathy when the people that are getting all these benefits are saying, well, I can only work 23 hours or else I'll lose my benefits. So they can't even help me in my operation. I hired you, gave you a job. You can't help me? You can't help me during my time of need because you'll lose your government benefits? See, it's really ironic. It's circular logic. Before I get into the outcome of this EBT thing, because I've got a point that I'm getting to. Right now, our country is effectively like you're getting your Toyota repossessed or whatever this car is, Honda or Toyota repossessed. So the Republicans are saying, let's get our financial house in order. But what the Democrats are saying is we will not open the government unless you spend $1.5 trillion. So then let's just go buy 3 Lamborghinis. It's ridiculous. If you get your car repossessed, your Toyota repossessed, you don't think about going out and buying 3 Lamborghinis, but that's exactly, precisely the same logic that's being instituted right here with Democrats. Now, I want to tell you this. I want to bring the country together. I don't want it any more torn apart than it is. But I can't help you if you're a sheep, if you're part of the herd, if you want to stick your head in the ground, if you're not wanting to look at basic facts, look at the receipts I showed you, and make up your own mind about what's really going on in this situation, then I cannot help you. No one can help you. You have got to pay attention and start doing some of this research yourself, looking into yourself, and don't just trusting these talking heads on ABC that hate our country. See all this debt ceiling and all this? These are checks and balances. And of course, yes, these are the branches. That's the general checks and balances. But a debt ceiling and these government shutdowns, all that kind of stuff, is to bring attention to the fact that we're overspending and it's getting out of hand financially. We have got to cut government down. Government's way too big, 4 times too large. Cut it in half, we'd do a little better. Cut it by 75%, we'd be flat even. We need to start having a surplus. That's where we need to be. All right, so this is a picture of just a random looting of a grocery store that we saw in one of these places that no longer has a Walmart, or this grocery store shut down because of this. But this is what you can expect on the first. You think people are just going to throw their hands in the air and just walk out, yell at the cashier a little bit. I've seen some videos of ignorant people yelling at the cashiers. If they write the policy and they vote on policy, they literally are just trying to ring you up. And if you're so ignorant that you don't want to even keep up with what is covered or not covered on your EBT card, you're going to freak out when nothing's covered on your EBT card because it's not reloaded. And I got to say, I really hope that all grocery stores heighten their security come November 1st if this shutdown's not resolved. And anybody involved in looting needs to go to prison. That's all I got to say. If you're stealing food and looting, you need to go to prison and get a job. There. That's me being empathetic. So how's my life going to be affected? Well, I might not be able to go in and buy my groceries. I might have to deal with a lot of this turmoil. The looting and the rioting. I might be inadvertently affected because people are stealing what I want. And I won't be able to buy my stuff. So that is an inadvertent casualty? What do they call that? Collateral damage. So I might be collateral damage in this, even though I don't depend on SNAP or any of that kind of stuff. But I got to say this, that there's only one Republican that's not voting to open the country, and that is Rand Paul, which has nothing to do with wanting to spend an extra $1.5 trillion. In fact, he's like, we should cut the government like I want to cut it. But you can't do it all at once. That's all there is to it. But anyway, let me know what you guys think about this. Did you learn anything in here? Do you completely disagree with me? Because I would love to talk to somebody that's in the herd that just listens to what they're told they're supposed to be upset about. And maybe I can wake someone up to critical thinking. Like, subscribe. Financial Independence out.